Today I'm going to talk a little bit about tech, okay, a little change and what is going on in the tech world and what's going on in real business, because this is really going to impact you individually as future employees of large corporations or even startups, and what's going on here and the things that you need to think of and be prepared for, both from a skill sets and mentally, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about digital transformation, digital economy. Today, businesses are being asked to do business in a different way, to engage clients differently. They are, in support of this, really looking at how and better ways to interface with customers and suppliers, to make direct connections to the supply chain, to also gather vast amounts of information on their own operations to provide insight to take action to better deliver services. So what's driving this, right? Why transition to digital? Well, what's coming out and what's finding out that you're 23 times more likely to acquire new customers. You're also 6 times more likely to retain those customers. And you're 19 times more likely to be profitable as that result. As you can imagine from a business, those are key metrics: customer acquisition, customer retention, and profit. What's also being found is that companies that have 50% of the revenue coming through a digital ecosystem can achieve 32% higher revenue growth, 27% higher profit margins, right? So as this information is coming out and being introduced to boardrooms and CIOs and CEOs, they're looking at this and saying, we need to take advantage of this, because if we're not, our competition is. How do I ensure, because in a lot of markets, the market's defined and you're just stealing customers from each other. How do I ensure that I get that acquisition of those customers? How do I make sure I retain those customers? What are we doing? And the questions are being asked, what is our digital transformation strategy for this company? Because I know my competition is looking at this as well. So the carrot and the stick, they're saying you must do this. Did you know that 52% of the companies that are on Fortune 500 have been merged, acquired, bankrupt, or fell off the list since 2000? And they're saying that digital disruption had a big part of this. I think that's a little heavy-handed. I think, there are impacts to this in the M&A due to the economy, and based on the technology, it's a lot easier to merge and acquire new companies and get your goods and services through the supply chain directly to those customers. Yes, right? But this is what businesses are being told today and why they need to act now. So what defines digital business, right? Technology enables it, but doesn't define it. It's really around the dynamics of the market that are going on today. It is really around the speed that you have to work at to stay competitive. How do you take advantage and build your digital assets to actually bring that to the market and show and differentiate through customer value and operational efficiencies? But it's different, right? There's different market spaces. If you read up on digital transformation and probably in your business classes you're talking about this, there's 2 schools of thoughts. Some people think only digital transformation happens when you bring new technology and define a new market space and meet that. That is the core of digital transformation. And they're right. That is absolutely true. I mean, largest taxi company in the US has no cars. Who's that? Uber. One of the largest hotelers don't have any hotel rooms or real estate. Who's that? Airbnb. And largest retailer has no storefronts, except one now. Amazon, right? So they absolutely created and used technology to create a new market space and link goods and suppliers directly to customers leveraging this. Fantastic. But there's companies like Chevron, McKesson, John Deere, who have a very capital assets, and they do manufacturing and production and data service. How do they take advantage of this? They want the benefits. And their boards and CIOs and CFOs are asking their employees, how do we make this happen for us? So let me give you an example. John Deere. John Deere does what? Builds badass tractors, right? So they're incredible at building incredible tractors and servicing them. But they looked at their customers and farmers, and we'll call it corporate farmers because that's what America is. So we look at the farmers and stuff, and really what they care about was yield. Now, they wanted high quality, value for their dollar, but they really cared about yield. How do I produce more corn on the same amount of acreage for less cost? So what they came up with is a whole digital platform, an operational center, where they realized that if they could put sensors, IoT, Internet of Things, right? Sensors on their tractors, collect that information, they can tell exactly, and hook it up to GPS, right? They can tell exactly where they were putting seed in, where they were doing fertilizer, how much pesticide they were doing. And then when they put that on the harvesters, it was measuring that yield. And they were putting it through and on the GPS and layering climate technology. And so now they could see where and when in target areas and lower the amount of pesticides, which is all good for us, right, and fertilizer they were using in spot checking this. Huge, huge different change. Now their differentiation is around that versus building the tractor, around providing data and insight to how they're farming to get better yield. Complete change in how they go to market. They also now are selling that information. They can collect that information and normalize it, take the names out, and sell that data on what's the average yields, right? And to different fertilizer companies and things like that. And I got more and more examples of that. So at the core of it is data and analytics. Collecting the data, providing new tools like artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive analytics, and having those capabilities to get the insight. It's the same old problem. It's the same thing that I've been working on for 20 years. You have data, you have transactional systems, you have reporting, but it's a new way of doing it. It is the breadth of doing it and putting the reach all the way out into the shop floor, the reach all the way out to the consumer. Like a shoe company has sensors now in their shoes, and it will know when you need new shoes and put them on hold for you, plus a lot of other things like scanning your social media when you went running and things like that. So you have data, you have to integrate it, you have to migrate it, you have to ensure it, you have to platform it, you have to model it. And guess what now, Facebook? You have to secure it, right? And then you're exposing all this information. So the company now is companies are looking this from a data as an asset standpoint. No longer is it around business process optimization, is how do I, through a lens, make an asset out of my data? And this is gonna be changing the way when you go to work, when you graduate, how you do your business. So as my own company, I had to do the same thing. I had to look as my vendor of choice, SAP, we do SAP services, was positioning their digital transformation on their software and enabling that. Clients were coming to me and saying, how can you help us do this journey? And we had to reflect and say, what is our digital transformation story? What do we do? And we literally had to look at our capabilities and had work sessions with the management team and redefined and developed a set of services as digital transformation services. We're partnering with our clients to help them understand where they can take advantage of this within corporations and how they can achieve those benefits. So what does this mean for you, right? Well, you can be assured that wherever you go, change is going to be the norm. That new use cases and capabilities are going to be hitting the company and the business, and the way they're going to be doing the business is going to be different. There's a huge value of data as an asset, and that's going to impact you in a sense of now business tools, reporting tools that used to be developed by IT are now being pushed directly to the business users. Products like Click, Power BI, Tableau, these are reporting in business. Anyone who's in business here, business majors, not IT, every single one of you, when you start your job, will be using these tool sets. They are pushed to the business, they're easy to use and easy to adopt. So what I recommend is that while you're here, go ahead, there's free versions everywhere on this, and start getting used to those. Because day one, you'll be leveraging these tool sets. You'll be bumping into machine learning and AI as just a standard. We're implementing a machine learning tool set for SAP where it does the processing against the checks against the accounts receivable, and it does it at a faster, better rate. So to wrap up, for you, as change is key, and digital transformation is real, and companies are just starting to do it. There's a lot of talk, but they're just on the edge of it and how it's going to impact us, which means for you who are going to graduate in the next few years, it's going to be impactful. So for me, for my career path, commitment, being prepared, and willingness to do things. Prepared means you have your house in order. Resume's always ready. You have your skill sets. When I got hired at Chevron, I took extra classes, and I was lucky enough to get onto the management program because of that. I was willing to say, yes, I'm taking that, and willing to travel around the country for the next 2 years. And I was committed to do the right thing. And that drove my own luck. You know, that I said, well, I'm really lucky to be put on that. But the reason why I was on that, because I did those things. An opportunity becomes for that. So make sure you do your homework. Like you said, don't be sad, don't be worried about failure, but make sure you're working in the right direction. Make sure you're ready to make the move. That's the best thing I could tell you. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I'll be over.